Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video I wanted to talk about painting snow using watercolour. Watercolours really lend themselves to doing snow for a variety of reasons really, but mostly because we can allow that white of the paper to shine through the colours that we use and give that impression of the snow. So the first thing really to think about when painting snow is that we're not painting white, and if you can get that into your head and into your mindset and just think snow is very, very rarely white, and the reason for that is a few things. Firstly, it's reflecting things, so it's reflecting objects that are around it, it's reflecting the sky, and that's going to all affect the colour that you're seeing. And secondly, there's going to be shadows across the snow. Where the snow undulates especially, the ground's very rarely flat, and you're very rarely going to have your light source coming from one direction. So you're going to have reflections and you're going to have shadows. So your snow is very, very rarely absolutely white. But of course we do want it to look like snow. So we've got to think about a way of getting that white, crisp snow feeling and what colours to use to achieve that. So we're just going to have a look at a couple of photographs I've printed off. I will pop the link to these in the description below. I've tried to get some very simple ones. So firstly we've got this one here with the sky very blue, and we've got the sun coming up behind these trees here, and of course we've got a very definite, very, very dark shadow made from these trees. So if we look here, this colour is almost ultramarine, it's very, very dark. And what makes the snow is this icy cold feeling is the amount of blues that we've got in there, and the fact that we've got these lighter colours showing through. We've got no green for grass or anything like that. So I would normally, when doing snow, use plenty of blue and perhaps plenty of violets as well. Go on the cold side of your colours. Having said that, we've still got little touches from the sun, being a tiny bit brighter, so maybe a little bit of yellow here and there, but you just be very careful that they don't mix to make any greens. Now look at this picture. This is completely different. A very, very red sky coming over these mountains here, and again casting lots and lots of shadow, but the reds in the sky and the blues of the shadows have combined to make this purpley colour over this snow. A very dramatic photograph, but we still know it's snow even though there is no white on there. If you look very, very carefully, and you can do this if you download these images yourself, look at this very carefully. We've got very dark blues in here, we've got very lilac-y colours, and we've also got pinks made from a mixture of what's reflecting from the sky and these shadows around the ground there. So some of these shadows are made from trees and surrounding objects, the mountains and things, but some are also made from where there's dints in the actual snow surface itself. So you need to practice just making up some washes to represent some snow. To begin with, you want to start with a really nice crisp white paper. Although all your watercolour papers are classed as white, the ones that you use normally, if you've got 2 or 3 different pads, just put them next to each other and you'll see that some of them are much whiter and brighter than others, and for this it's probably nice to choose something that's nice and bright to give you that impression of the light coming through the paint there, to make it more crisp. So one of the colours that I use a lot when I'm doing snow is violet, and I actually like the Windsor violet, which is this one here. And the thing about it is you don't want lots of colour, you want plenty of water in there. And don't forget, when you put your watercolours onto your paper, they're going to dry a lot lighter than they go on, by about 50% normally. So you can see how pale that's going to be when it dries, and sometimes that can be just enough to take the white off the paper and give you a shadow on that snow. You might like to work wet in wet and make a little bit of a thicker mix of the violet with much less water in it, and add that into that whilst it's wet. Again, that can give you some nice shadows, and that will dry a lot lighter than it's gone on. And another colour you might like to use is blue, of course. But use a cool blue. A cerulean's quite nice. Sorry, I should pick this up and show you, you can't see. So this is the cerulean blue. And again with plenty of water. And you'll see as I chat that these are drying and they will be fading an awful lot. And you might want to add the two of those together. So we'll just pop a little bit of each of those in there, and that will also make quite a nice colour for snow. So be guided by whatever you're drawing, what's in front of you, the reference that you're using, and have a look at those shadows and think about the colours that you're seeing, not what you're imagining you're seeing, because this is the problem. Our brain fills in the gaps. We've been programmed all our lives to think of snow as being white, so we immediately think that we're going to be painting white without actually taking a really good look at what's in front of us. So again, if we look at this, it's very, very dark. You know, if we pop the photograph there, this is something you can do as a practice as well. In fact, what you can do as a nice little practice is to tape down your photograph to your paper and then look at the colours and try and match them. So that's too blue, you might want some Payne's grey in that, or something a bit darker. But you can see just how dark this is here, and you can go all the way along trying to match these colours. So that's another good exercise that you can have a go at. But you would never in a million years think about picking up those colours to paint snow without stopping and thinking about it. Another colour we're going to see a lot of is grey, and you want quite a cool grey. Again, so we'll use some cerulean, and instead of using the 3 primaries, which is a quick way of making any greys, just pop a tiny bit of the burnt sienna in. And that makes quite a nice grey with the cool of the cerulean. So it's still very bluey, but a nice colour nevertheless. Another colour I like to use for snowy areas is cerulean. And again, see how much water I've got here and how little pigment I've got. Very, very little pigment in here. And some alizarin crimson. So a tiny bit of cerulean blue and some alizarin crimson. And that makes a really nice colour for snow. You might want to use a dry brush technique. So by that I mean allow your brush to run out of paint, and then you get these nice areas where you've got the white of the paper just peeping through. And once these colours are dried, you might like to come on top and go even darker in different areas. So the main thing is to look at your specific reference and really examine those colours. Perhaps get a rough piece of paper and practice the colours before you start. Use plenty of water to allow that paper to shine through, but at the same time don't be frightened to go really, really dark where you need to. Look at the tones here, some of these are really dark. And don't forget with your highlights, the whitest thing on this in this one is the sun, obviously here, but even then it's only the outside edge of the sun. And with this one, again, it's the sun that's the brightest area, 1 or 2 little areas here. So with highlights, don't overdo them. If you have too many areas of white, it becomes distracting and you're not going to get the impact of that main highlight. So less is more with your highlights. So everywhere else on this picture, apart from the very centre of this sun, you're going to be actually applying some paint to your paper. Even areas like this, it might be that you just get a little bit, I'll just show you on here, sorry. It might be that you just get a little bit of water and add to it a tiny touch of a couple of those colours mixed together to have it almost nothing, almost hardly any colour there, but it's not white. So these areas, things like this here, we appear at first glance to be white, they aren't. This is the whitest area, that's what I'm trying to sort of emphasise really. So just use plenty of water and cover all your paper apart from your highlights with paint. Okay, I hope that makes sense and I hope that's useful to you. have a go. There's lots more pictures that you can find on the internet. If you go onto Pixabay and just type snow in, you'll find all sorts of nice things, and just go through them and have a look and think about the colours that you see reflected from the sky and the shadows and reflected from the surrounding objects. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. I'll be back again with some more in-depth tutorials and demonstrations. In fact, I'm going to try and do a snow one for Skillshare as soon as I get time, which will be a lot more in-depth than I have time to do here today. Okay, so thank you for joining me, and I'll be back again soon. Bye for now.